Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Loren Feldman. This week, we introduce Stephanie Stuckey, a new regular on the podcast who tells Dana White and Laura Zander about the iconic roadstop business her grandfather founded, when it peaked, what went wrong, why she bought it back, and how she plans to rejuvenate it. Along the way, we discuss whether small businesses should outsource their marketing, how hard it is to find an agency that really listens, and what it should cost to hire a marketing firm. Plus, Stephanie offers a tutorial on how to engage followers and get free consulting on LinkedIn. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will, if nothing else, let owners know they are not alone in facing these challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which you can subscribe to at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes. This week's lineup features Dana White, who is CEO of Paralee Boyd, a chain of hair salons based in Detroit. Laura Zander, who is CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital yarn store that is based in Reno, Nevada, and also owns a wholesale supplier, Madelintosh, in Fort Worth, Texas. And Stephanie Stuckey, who is CEO of Stuckey's, the snack and roadstop business famous for its pecan logs. The episode is titled, A Fabulous Conversation About Marketing. Welcome, Dana and Laura, and our newest regular on the 21 Hats podcast team, Stephanie Stuckey. Great to have you here, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Let's start with you, Stephanie. You're the granddaughter of the founder of the Stuckey's Roadstop business, a brand and a business that is remembered fondly by so many people, even though it fell on hard times after your family sold it. But you bought the business back in 2019. Why don't you start by telling us what kind of shape was it in when you bought it?
Not good.
Tell us more.
Yeah, Stuckey's had been losing money consistently since 2016 when I purchased the company, and we were in the red. And what I bought was something that you could not see on the books, and I think that is what took a family member to appreciate and understand the value of the brand. I bought a brand. I didn't buy an asset that was really worth a lot.
People think of the roadstop locations. What were the assets that you did, in fact, buy?
Yeah, and just some background, because I think there's a certain era that really remembers Stuckey's, and it would have been people who maybe in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, early 80s would road trip and pull over and see our stores. So that's what we're best known for, is we had roadside locations. At our peak, we had 368 stores in almost 40 states. And we were known for our products, and specifically, we started as a pecan stand on the side of the road. So to this day, we continue to be known for pecan-based products. So that was,
can I just interrupt real quick and say you are now my new best friend for pronouncing that word correctly.
Yeah, right?
Everybody is like, pecan. I'm like, it's pecan. We even asked Google, and Google thinks it's pecan. So I am so stoked that you are here.
Thank you.
You are on my side. And I used to go to Stuckey's all the time. And that's probably where I learned how to say it the right way. So,
right?
It's true. So sorry. Just
my grandfather would say pecans when you pick them, pecans when you sell them. So it was however the seller would want to pronounce them. And he sold pecans to the Northerners a lot. He would say Yankees, and he would say pecans. Yep.
Yeah.
So what assets were there? We have 67 locations. None of them are company owned. They're all independently franchised operations. Only 20 of those are standalone stores. The remainder will be what we call Stuckey's Express, or store within a store. So you'll see a co-branded Stuckey's section in, for example, we're in a few pilot locations. Just like you would see a Dunkin's or a Subway, you might see a Stuckey's mini section. So we had 20 standalone stores, 47 stores within a store, so 67 franchise locations that we're paying a monthly franchise fee. We have a distribution center in Eastman, Georgia. We have 3 sales reps. We had a skeleton crew that had been running the company for a decade, since my dad's retirement. So the main team was a vice president and a CFO and 3 sales reps. So those are sort of the assets that I purchased.
That's like 5 employees you're talking about?
So we have 2 people who run the warehouse, and we have 3 pickers, warehouse pickers, and a couple of seasonal workers. So really round number 10, small.
You sell lots of snacks, pecan snacks. Did I get that right?
Yes. And we've been outsourcing our product for decades. That's something I think a lot of companies don't talk about, but many well-known brands, they don't actually manufacture their product in-house. They outsource that. That doesn't mean it's not a quality product and it's not made to their specifications, using their recipes, etc., living up to their standards. But that is kind of a secret of many products that they don't self-produce. Having said that, very soon we're in the process of acquiring our own manufacturing capacity. So we're going to change that around. But I didn't acquire any manufacturing at the time.
I'm curious, when was the peak? When was it doing the best that it was doing? And when did it really start to, I mean, that's a huge drop, right?
Good question. So quite a few things happened. The peak I would say is the mid 1970s. My grandfather sold the company in 1964, right before I was born. And he remained involved with the company and was head of Stuckey's division of the company that bought Stuckey's for about 10 years. And then the CEO that brought my grandfather on died unexpectedly of a heart attack. My grandfather was pushed out. Then that company got bought out by another company. And then people were driving the roads less because there was an Arab oil embargo. And then the Airline Deregulation Act passed and people were flying more because flying was affordable. So it's external and internal factors that all combined that had us on this rapid trajectory of going downhill. So 80 years history, I've condensed in a few minutes, right?
Stephanie, you don't really have a background doing this kind of thing. You've had an interesting career. Tell us quickly about your background and how this feels to you taking over a business as CEO.
Had I not been given this opportunity to buy the company from my dad's former partners who were actively selling, I would never have stepped up to the plate and been a CEO. I would have never thought I had the capacity to do that. But when you look back on your life's experiences and think about the skills that you gain throughout the different careers you may have had or the different positions that can help inform a new career, even if it's doing something different, there's similar skill sets. And the number one skill set I would stress is what Warren Buffett always talks about, which is emotional intelligence. And that only comes with maturity and being able to handle very stressful situations in a way that's even keeled. And so much of being a successful entrepreneur or a business leader or a leader in life is being able to effectively manage interpersonal relationships. I'd say that's easily half of what I do every day, is making sure that the team is working together well and we're maximizing each other's skill sets. So for my background, I'm a lawyer by training. I practiced law for many years. I was a litigator. I was a criminal defense trial lawyer. I was in the Georgia State Legislature. I had a career in public service for 14 years, and I headed up an environmental nonprofit for 3 years. And then I got tapped as head of sustainability for the city of Atlanta by Mayor Kasim Reed. I was doing that. And then I left, was heading up sustainability for a nonprofit based in Atlanta and teaching as an adjunct at the University of Georgia School of Law when I had this career move to take over my family's business.
And you think that your resume is not impressive enough? Are you kidding me?
I didn't think I could be a CEO. I mean, I was in the nonprofit space, right?
Yeah, but it's just 3 letters. You can put any 3 letters behind your name that you want to if you own the company.
Right. If you own a company, by the way, you can make yourself CEO. That's
exactly
CEO,
exactly.
CEO.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm going to change my title to Chief Candy Maker soon.
Perfect. I love it.
That's the title I want.
Pecan maker.
For me, I was, a labor relations specialist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hairstylist.
Yep.
And I think I think you're spot on when you say a lot of it has to do with your emotional maturity. I worked in the Middle East. I worked in New York City. And the skill set to be able to talk to people, to be able to work with workers, understanding what they need and how to support them, you can translate that to anything. I, too, had a brief stint in politics.
Oh, really?
I was in presidential campaigns years and years and years ago. But that rallying the troops, that getting everybody on the same page, that, being consistent with your message, that all translates in business to culture, vision, processes, order. I don't have an engineering background. So the fact that I've drawn to this lean manufactured business is new, but I have experience. Even my experience being a waitress has helped me develop this brand. My question for you, Stephanie, is you said the 70s was the peak. At what point did Stuckey's not evolve? What happened in Stuckey's that didn't keep up with the changes?
They lost their visionary founder. And I know I'm biased about that because he was my grandfather, but it plays out looking at the history and talking to non-family members about what happened. He was involved with the company even after he sold it, like I said. As head of the Stuckey's division, the company that bought Stuckey's, it's based out of St. Louis, and part of their portfolio at the time was Whitman's chocolate samplers. So definitely had an aligned brand in their portfolio, and it really was a good fit. The new CEO was in finance and did not understand a brand. He didn't understand marketing, and he certainly didn't get what was special about Stuckey's is that we were a road trip experience. We weren't just selling a product, and we weren't just numbers on a book. So my grandfather was ousted, and then that company got bought out by a Chicago railroad conglomerate. And at that point, it just became a rapid downward line.
Yeah. I think that's important, especially for our listeners when, business owners are always trying to keep their head above water. And a lot of us right now just barely have our noses above water. I'm fortunate. My mouth is above water. My chin is a little under the surface. And so, yes, it's a money-making opportunity, but you really need somebody who's in line with the vision.
Our largest competitor just sold and announced it 2 days ago. So they just got a buyer, and the buyer was like the second largest competitor, which is a VC funded, they've raised, 50-60 million bucks. And there's no heart and soul to the VC funded company, so we're just waiting for them to exit. They've been acquiring all these kind of assets and small businesses within the yarn industry over the last 2 years or 3 years. My little tribe, I guess, of local yarn shop owners have all been discussing, like, what does this mean that the business that our competitor sold? And it was a second generation business. And it's been around for 45 years. And we're like, well, there it goes. There goes the heart and soul. They'll stick around probably for a year. That's probably is what I'm assuming the contract is. And then all of those sales are going to end up being distributed across the rest of us. So for us, it's actually a really good thing because we're assuming that it's going to follow that same kind of trajectory that you just explained and that you just experienced, because there's no heart and soul. There's no drive.
Do you know why they sold?
I don't know specifically. I'm going to assume, they're a little bit older. They're probably 10, 15 years older than Doug and I are, and probably just tired, and ready to retire and be done.
Sure.
And it goes back to, like, what do you do? Succession planning. It's really making us me look inward. Can I do this until I'm 60, 70? Not all of us are Jay Golds. And not all of us necessarily want to do this for the rest of our lives. So what do you do? How do you not lose the soul? Or do you care? Do you just end up shutting it down? Like, where does it go?
That's a good question, because I think so often people feel this stress of, especially if you're in a family business like me, I'm a 3G or third generation, or there's this pressure. It has to go to the fourth generation. And I'm not suggesting this for Stuckey's, but sometimes I think it's okay just to say it ends here. It's been a great business. We had a great run. We're shutting it down. And how much better would it be to close in a very decisive way instead of having it die the slow and pathetic death where you drive by and see these shuttered Stuckey stores that are now porn shops, which is the reality of some of our old stores. If it hadn't gotten back in the family business, that's how it would have died.
Oh my God, talk about the polar opposite.
Stephanie, are you comfortable telling us what this investment in Stuckey's means to you? I mean, if you're comfortable sharing what you paid for it, we'd be interested to hear that. But what I'm really interested in is are you putting your heart and soul into this? What does it mean to you to turn this business around?
It's very personal to me. So it's my name up there on those billboards and on those stores and on the candy label. So I do have a really strong emotional connection to this brand. And it's more than just my personal experiences with it. It's what I know it's capable of. And that whole experience of taking to the open road, which I think is such an American experience because we have this country that is huge with highways that connect us. And there's this wanderlust in all of us. And Stuckey's is part of something so much bigger than just me getting excited about making pecan log rolls. It's getting in your car, it's exploring back roads, it's going to the alligator petting zoos, or maybe not a petting, a llama.
Yes, no, I took Huck to one.
But it's the goofy golf and south of the border and Wall Drug that is so uniquely American. You don't see places like that anywhere else in the world, and it's everyone's vacation. You don't have to have a lot of money to get in your car and experience these things. And Stuckey's is part of that. So we fill a unique niche, and Stuckey's 100%. Has gotten away from offering that. We've lost that magic because we were out of family hands, and I'm trying to get it back to that. And my father, he did a great job. He saved the brand. Had he not taken it on, it would have gone under. But he was also running 5 other companies at that point, and he made Stuckey's part of his portfolio to keep it going. But he didn't really have he doesn't have the same vision I do for the company. Having said that, he's still very much alive and supports what I'm doing and the direction I'm going. My vision for the company is getting it back to this unique experience. I'm working right now on getting photo booths in the stores that would be branded Stuckey. So the old timey photo booths where the little reels come out, but you can also get a digital version of your photo too. I'm working on bringing back that sense of having a fun experience when you pull over, and it's not just getting gas and using the restroom and getting a bag of Cheetos. It's having a unique experience that relates to the place where you are. And I'm not telling how much I bought it for. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think people might be shocked. It was pretty, I don't know. They might think it was too low or they might think it was too high. I negotiated down, I'll say that.
I'd have to say that I know a little bit about Stuckey's. And one of the things, it's sad but true, Stuckey's had no segregated bathrooms.
That's right.
On the road. Yeah. In a time where in the South, bathrooms are segregated. So you guys were in the Green Book.
We were in the Green Book.
Yep, you're in the Green Book. We could go to a Stuckey's. So, I'm excited for you. And I hear that you get it, obviously. As a girl who, has a personal connection to the brand, you just don't want anybody to take it over. And you were called to take it over, grow it, and especially that wanderlust factor, especially now, right? People aren't getting on planes, and who knows when they'll get back on planes the way they used to. I was listening to you, I'm like, wow, such rich marketing material.
Oh my God. I know.
And even with the, I don't know how your marketing team would feel about it, but even in touching on,
the marketing team.
You mean Stephanie?
Like, it could be you. It could be, I just hired a marketing team, and we could talk about that in another episode, but.
Or we could talk about it this one. I would like to hear Stephanie talk about her marketing plans and hear what you, Dana and Laura, think about it.
Like, I'm listening to her, and there's such a wealth of ways to reach so many customers, to reconnect them with Stuckey's, having, not segregating their bathrooms in a time like this, showing who you are as who you've always been. That's, wow. Yes. And that phrase was $29.95. You can have that.
Yeah.
No kidding. That was that's a t-shirt.
Stephanie, one of the things that caught my eye is that your website, unlike most websites, has a guest book where people can leave their memories, what they've experienced with your brand through the years. How do you build on that? Do you have a marketing plan?
I do have a marketing plan. I wrote it myself, and I have had the benefit of a lot of freelancers that support me, but on a very limited basis. And I've had it vetted with others to get their feedback. But I have a marketing plan, and I have a very small team. I guess I can say I have a marketing team then. I have 2 graphic designers that I use freelance, and I have a wonderful guy who helps me draft some of the narrative in my e-blast. And then I have a young man who helps me post on Instagram especially. And I'm very challenged with video content. I'm interested in Dana, Laura, if y'all use video, because that's more of a challenge for me. I'm trying to figure that out. But the marketing team is just me coordinating freelancers on an hourly basis. I just hired someone to help me structure a Pinterest site and get that up and running as well.
I will offer as much advice as you would like in exchange for pecan rolls. So
right.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Deal.
I'll be on your board, and I'll drive. As long as there's food there during the day, I'd be stoked. And maybe a T-shirt.
Excellent.
So I've been open 8 years, and I've done so with doing very little marketing. And so this year I've decided to make an investment into marketing. So I literally just had a meeting with the firm that I'm going to bring on to do all the marketing outside of graphic design. I too freelance for graphic design, someone I've been working with starting in 2020. And I'm a nervous wreck. I'm a nervous wreck because, I'm feeling like the investment is trying, even though with the little marketing I've done, we have some idea of what works. But this is a huge investment for me. And I want to make sure that the money I put in, I get back. And I've talked to some of their other clients. I've talked to a friend of mine who's a soon-to-be client, and a friend of mine who's already a client of theirs. They came highly recommended. My challenge with finding a marketing team through an agency of record is, I'm a different kind of business, and people want to box me. And the second you do that, I'm losing.
What do you mean, Dana, that you're a different kind of business? What about your business are you referring to?
Most marketing firms that I interviewed want to make me a salon. And I'm getting ready to cut a check, and you're still talking about appointments. And it's so obvious that, I'm walk-in only. I was in a meeting. So Dana, if I come and make an appointment, I'm like, you can't make an appointment. Oh, right. It's Sunday. You're closed today. No, we're 7 days a week. So
they don't listen.
They're not listening. They're not getting. And so then a lot of their marketing ideas for me were appointment based. And if you'd even done any homework, which I know they had, but if you paid attention to the website, if you had done any homework, you'd realize that you have to approach Paralee Boyd a little differently and listen to the owner when she tells you how to market to the people she wants to be her customers. And they're like, well, no, maybe we should market to these people.
How do you respond to that, Dana? Do you correct them, or do you head for the exit?
I correct and head. I correct them and I leave. I'm a little nervous, and I think they're beyond qualified. They're going to do a great job. But the proof is in the pudding. And when do I pivot? When do I say, okay, I've put in enough money, it's not coming back? I like their ideas thus far. We've done a little bit of marketing that's data driven. So I've given them the results so we kind of see what works. But I'm nervous as I'm getting ready to cut this check every month. Oh my goodness. It's bananas.
How big is the check?
I can totally relate to that.
The check is $50,000.
Oh,
yeah, that's consistent with quotes I've gotten. And the quotes I've gotten is, all right, well, what if I just hired you to do several months worth of work and really help put a good structure in place for us? And the quotes I've been getting for that have been 40,000. I've gotten quotes for 100,000.
I've got,
that's what you will see, charges like that. And I think quite often maybe they think we have more money than we do, or we're willing to spend money we don't have, or maybe large corporations I know pay a lot of money. And so they're used to that. There's really not a lot of marketing firms out there that cater to small businesses. And it's a shame.
I'm so excited that you said that. That was part of my selection criteria. And I said this in our very first meeting with every marketing person, don't give me a proposal based on who you think I am. Give me a proposal based on what I need. Give me a proposal that says, I want to be in a relationship with Tara Floyd and Dana White, and in 5 years, I want to be her agency of record. If you give me a quote that says X amount of dollars, then I'm saying you don't want to be in a relationship with me. And I finally found a marketing firm that gets it, that's comfortable marketing to my market, that gets Paralee Boyd. And I'm excited to see, but it's still $50,000 for the year. It's still a lot of money.
What did they promise you for that $50,000?
I've spoken with a customer of theirs who've said, these are the returns on the investment that I've gotten, and this is what I've reinvested in them, and I don't look back. They have promised me a lot in their statements of work, something that they've already started to do. Dana, this is what we're going to do. And they're smart. They shouldn't promise me an ROI of such and such and such and such. No, what they promised me is to deliver and work hard. And that's all I can ask for to an extent. 6 months in at $24,000 and nobody's coming in the door. Okay, let's talk. But
do you even have metrics for like number of impressions, number of products? Okay, you do.
Yep.
Can I ask, at $50,000 for the year, obviously you thought about, I could just hire one person, right? And that would do this full time for me, that was in-house and that like lives and breathes the brand and isn't doing anything else. What was the thought process behind why choose an agency as opposed to having a full-time employee?
Their network, who they could call and negotiate a rate with at a radio station. The individuals that I had looked at wanted to work with Paralee Boyd. They overpromised. There were questions that I was asking that they hadn't had the answers to. It was obvious that I had thought more about this than they had. I'm at a point, especially because of this show, I'm at a point where I'm done hand holding. I've been open for 8 years. I'm not happy with the growth, COVID aside. It's time to bite the bullet, invest the money. That's why I hired the operations manager, and that's why I chose a firm.
The challenge also with hiring in-house is obviously all the expenses associated with that. A $50,000 salary is not just $50,000. You have to provide health insurance. You have to pay Social Security. You have to pay taxes. It gets very expensive very fast. So the actual cost to the company would be more than $50,000. And most people coming out of college, I'm amazed at the salaries that they expect. I wish that there were more firms that would cater to a smaller startup and provide really boutique services. But the firms I found, even the smaller ones that I thought would offer more reasonable rates, are quoting me six figures.
No,
and that's when I come in saying, I can't afford six figures.
Exactly.
And
I can't.
I'm nowhere near there. There is such need out there for marketing with smaller firms, where if you could pick up a 10K, a 20K client, and you could pick up 10 of those clients and provide good quality work and have somewhat of a gig economy model where you're utilizing some workforce that you can coordinate their services. I think there's a model there. It's beyond my capacity because I'm not a marketing guru. What I do know is the Stuckey's brand.
Yep.
And so I know how to message the Stuckey's brand, which is what I'm doing. But there's a need out there. The other thing with a firm is all the software, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of software and equipment. And
I also chose a firm, to answer your question, because of where I intend to go. And I didn't want to outgrow someone who can't market for me in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, and do product as well.
Laura, Stephanie had asked about video, and you asked about kind of doing this work in-house. You kind of built Jimmy Bean's Wool by doing your own marketing. A lot of it was video, creating video showing your customers what they could do with your yarn. That was some time back. Do you think that model still works? Is that still possible?
I think it's probably more possible and more relevant now than it's ever been. In fact, that's what our focus is going to be for 2021 is doing in-house, again, low production value, especially in our industry. And I would venture that in the Stuckey's brand is a little similar and that their customers.
How so?
You're talking about a kind of working class road trip Americana. I would assume, and Stephanie, I mean, please correct me if you're wrong.
Yeah, no,
people
that's
are
right.
put off by corporate America. They're put off by shiny objects.
Yeah.
I mean, you want it to be, real and a little down and dirty and a little flawed, because otherwise you just look at it and you feel like crap about yourself. So anyway.
That makes sense.
I get the capacity thing, and that makes sense to me, Dana, in terms of if you're doing ad buys, and that's a big part of your strategy, that totally makes sense, to have somebody, outside. It also so happens that I really enjoy the marketing. And that is an area of learning that I am digging into that I have, that just excites me. But it sounds, Stephanie, to me like you're the same way, and that you want to you've got a brand, and that's what we have always focused on. So we're not as focused on creating non-appointment walk-ins, or foot traffic. We have been focused on less ROI, direct ROI stuff, and more brand building, getting the word out there, causing some noise, creating some noise, and in some ways kind of just saturating the market so that people in our industry, if they're in your example, if they're going to go on a road trip, there's no way they can't know about Stuckey's because you just pop up everywhere.
But aren't I doing the same thing though? Like that, when I'm listening to you, I'm like, no, Laura, I want to do that too, right? I want women to say to themselves, you know what? If I have to get my hair done today, I'm going to Pearly Boyd.
Yeah, I'm going to venture. I would think that hair is just slightly different, and that you do want your hair to be perfect.
It's not, not touching everybody. I have a niche market, I think.
You do have a niche. Yeah. And I mean, yes, we want the pecan roll to be perfect, and I don't want to get salmonella or get sick because of something,
Right.
So there's that on the food. And yes, I want my yarn to be good, but there seems to, when it comes to beauty needs to be clean. It needs to, in my mind, I don't want to see a down and dirty salon ad. I want to know that the tools are clean. I want to know that, when I come out of there, my hair is I'm going to look like freaking, I don't know, somebody amazing, Lady Gaga. So I would say that in your situation, you might need it to be a little cleaner. And you might need it to be a little more professional and slick and for Stephanie and I. But again, that's just my gut kind of intuition as a consumer.
Okay.
I think, Stephanie, good God, and I know you know this otherwise, and you're obviously very intelligent and way more accomplished than I'll ever be.
Doubt it.
Stephanie, you'll learn that Laura's always talking down her business despite having a very successful, impressive business.
Yeah. If I was doing that well, I wouldn't be so stressed out all the time. Stephanie, if you need a succession plan, and I'm serious, board of directors, whatever, you have such a freaking gold mine. And I know you know this, and that's why you made this move.
She has a huge following on LinkedIn to that point.
My gosh, the Americana, the nostalgia, I'm reading Ready Player One with my son right now. And, it's all about the 80s and going back, and we're trying to capture this innocence. And, you've got my generation, I'm 46 and I grew up going to Stuckey's, that was the highlight of the trip. Didn't matter where you went, and to be able to capture that.
It's been fun. And it's a great point, Lauren, about LinkedIn. When I first started, I was posting on LinkedIn once a week, and I was posting on Facebook daily, Twitter daily, Instagram daily. I quickly learned that LinkedIn is where I'm having the most interaction. And for me, interaction is not just a thumbs up.
That's so surprising. I don't think of LinkedIn that way. How do you explain that?
Oh, no. That's huge. Sorry, if I could just interject, my marketing team is all over LinkedIn. Just
LinkedIn's
FYI.
amazing.
They said, Dana, that's a huge market for you.
LinkedIn was the biggest surprise. I get so much engagement on LinkedIn. It's the comments. And it's not just well done or kudos, I like that. I really like this because, like today, for example, I can't afford marketing research. So I'm deciding between 2 billboard designs. And I was really head set on one billboard design. And the owner of the store wants another billboard design. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put this up on LinkedIn. I'm going to ask people for their feedback and everyone's going to agree with me. And then I'm going to go show this to the store owner and say, all right, see, I'm right. Well, I posted it. I said, I want your feedback. I've already gotten a lot of feedback and it's been mixed. A lot of people like the way he likes the billboard. So that's just one example. But the feedback I'm getting is not just, I like the top one. It's, I like the top one because the logo stands out more.
God, what a great way to grow this brand by having your community involved in all of these decision makes.
And I'm getting free consulting. I put up display concepts. Oh, this is my favorite. I put up display concepts and I'm been working on this display because we're so small and we have limited budget and we don't own our own stores. Part of my growth strategy is we get retail partners and that sell our product, but they don't pay us a franchise like an Ace Hardware. So I'm working on these displays that look like a mini Stuckey store with a roof, a blue roof, and a little Stuckey's sign. And so you get the experience of a road trip from the display, even though you may be at your local Ace Hardware store. So I got the inspiration for this display shamelessly from a Krispy Kreme display that I'd taken a photo of, and I showed it to this guy who makes displays. And I was like, this is my inspiration. Can you mock up something? And so I had a prototype and I put the prototype on LinkedIn. I said, can you all give me feedback? What do you think of this? Got tons of great comments. And this one guy messaged me and said, I really like this. I have some valuable feedback. I'd love to have a phone call with you. It looks a lot like the display that I created for Krispy Kreme when I was their marketing director. And he showed me a photo and I was like, busted. He's now helping me, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah. At a very reasonable rate because he said, I love your brand. He's no longer working for Krispy Kreme. He just took time off for family reasons. And he's like, this is a fun project. I'm interested in helping you. And he's amazing. And I found that through LinkedIn, through a LinkedIn comment. I didn't even say I was hiring.
Do you enjoy like building these displays and kind of designing or helping design and lead the billboard? Is this fun for you?
I'm doing it more out of necessity. No, I don't have the capacity to do all of this. So our exec team meetings are 4 people. We don't necessarily have those layers of processes and structure that a big firm has, but that doesn't mean that we don't need more structure and more processes. And so there's some learning that could really help inform how we run things at Stuckey's. We were a really big corporation at one point with 1,000 employees. So I've been pulling through our archives and finding old materials. And actually some of our paperwork is actually pretty helpful in how Stuckey's had been run. And some of it I'm saving. I'm like, okay, well, when we really grow the brand some more, I'm going to pull this old document off. And this is a good org chart for 100 people.
I see a Stuckey's museum coming, Stephanie.
Yeah. Oh, that would be outstanding. A Stuckey's museum. Wow.
I have actually a mini. So I collect a ton of Stuckey's archival materials. I am the #1 Stuckey's buyer on eBay. If you I shouldn't say what my eBay tag is. I think I'm outed. They definitely start raising the rates when I'm bidding. But I've collected a ton of stuff, and I live in a duplex. And so half of my house I rent out on Airbnb, and I've Stuckey'd it up and is full of Stuckey memorabilia. And I actually advertise it as take a Stuckey stop. And every room has Stuckey stuff on the wall, Stuckey's pillows, Stuckey's old candy boxes, decorating the shelves.
You need a museum.
Yeah, that would be outstanding.
It fills up a 2-bedroom house right now. 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with old Stuckey signs and paintings filling the entire place.
Guys, this has been great. And I have a feeling we could talk all day, but I got to let you go. I have one last question. Will each of you commit to sharing this podcast when I publish it on Tuesday on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to share with my 100 followers.
Yeah, exactly.
But that leads to more followers. And the other thing is I try when I share things, not to just hit the share button, but to have a teaser to say, we had a fabulous discussion about marketing today, or we talked about how important it is to network and look at these resources, or what's a reasonable budget for a marketing firm and what should you take into account when you're looking to hire a marketing firm if you're a small business.
I'm writing it all down. My thanks to Stephanie Stuckey, Dana White, and Laura Zander. As always, thank you all for sharing. This was great. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.